Hi, I'm Andy Lipka. I'm the president of EverScholar. We wanted to give you a little taste of our upcoming program, Statesmanship and Its Practitioners. So I recorded a little Zoom with Stephen Smith, uh, a professor of political science at Yale, who's going to be one of the lead professors for that program. He's taught in EverScholar in the past several times and is really very popular. In fact, he's become a good friend of mine and many other EverScholar participants. Anyway, we were just sort of going back and forth, and I wanted to give you a few snippets from it. So here's some sort of random clips. I want to apologize for the video quality because we had bad internet connection, but it's really about what he's saying. Anyway, he starts off talking a little bit about Washington, telling kind of a random story about Washington and Hamilton, and then we get into a little discussion of EverScholar itself. So just a few clips from that, just to give you a taste of what you're in for in the program. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you in New York in April for this program. Thanks.
Washington apparently during the convention every Sunday had a reception at his house where they would receive people, and people could come in and I guess meet the general and so on. And but he was very formal. He was very formal. And Madison, no, what is it? Morris bet Hamilton that he said he could go up and he could put his hand on his shoulder and say, "How are you, General?" And he'd be greeted with familiarity, and the general would appreciate that. And Hamilton said, "I will bet you dinner for you and 10 of your friends if you do that." So Morris takes the bet. They show up at the reception, and Morris puts his hand on Washington's shoulder and says, "General, it's so good to see you," or something like that. And he said that Washington withdrew. He just gave him just a withering stare until Morris just retreated from the reception line. Later that evening, when they were having the dinner that Hamilton had promised, Morris said, "I won the bet, but it was something I would never do again." Something like
He won the battle but lost the war, I think it sounds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they managed to have some fun, and but I think Hamilton knew Washington's character better than Morris did, and he didn't appreciate that familiarity.
So you
Maybe that's in a way when Aristotle. I'm just blabbering here for a minute. When Aristotle in the Ethics speaks in his chapter on what he calls what is often translated as the great-souled man or the magnanimous man, which is sometimes taken to be the model of the statesman, Aristotle's statesman. One thing that's necessary, and Aristotle goes into this with often vivid detail, is the importance of kind of the aloofness of the great souled man. You do not mix with the people. You are not one of the guys. There has to be a kind of distance and aloofness that there, and Washington very much seems to exhibit that Aristotelian quality.
Mm-hmm. It's do you think that there is a real profile of a statesman, like that there's certain personality qualities that are inevitably part of a statesman? Do you think that it can be there is no one thing that really characterizes a statesman? It can be any kind of combination.
Yeah, right. I think obviously there's not one model. Everybody brings a different personality to it. Lincoln was humorous. Other people were stern. But I do think this, as long as we're just talking about it, there is a kind of distance that what I've read, that great leaders put between themselves and the people.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in the paper that I wrote for Liberties, where, for example, I use the example when not Jimmy Carter, when Bill Clinton said to one of his, member, I feel your pain,
Hmm.
which of course was in many ways praised as his ability to empathize with his audience. It was also kind of ridiculed too. But there's an example of somebody who's trying to break down the barriers of formality between himself. I feel your pain. I am like you. And Lincoln, on the other hand, we know from Herndon, even the people who knew him best, he was an enigma. People, he didn't reveal himself. There was a distance between himself and even his intimates. And I think the humor and the joking and so on is a way of trying to almost conceal himself behind it. It's not really so much in it to show I'm one of the guys, but in many ways it could be seen more as a kind of defense mechanism that distanced him from his even his peers, those closest to him.
When I watched the documentary of the Civil War, the Ken Burns documentary, when he describes Robert E. Lee, he describes him as the courtly, unknowable aristocrat.
Yeah,
But I think Lincoln, in some ways, was unknowable in that sense.
yeah, very much so.
Mhm. And some people, I think, interpret that as ambition. Some people interpret it as depression. Some people, there's different people. He was a complex character, and so it'd be so interesting to study him.
There's
That.
one of the at the end of the Lincoln class, I give them a set of readings, kind of looking at Lincoln in retrospective. And there's a speech that Woodrow Wilson gives, which I think is very revealing. And he says to his audience, have you ever seen one of those statues by Rodin? He said, it's kind of interesting for Woodrow Wilson. You don't think of him as an art lover, really. But he said, have you ever seen a Rodin statue where the body just kind of then disappears into the marble base or into the marble frame? And you get a glimpse of the whole thing, but then it disappears. And he felt that was kind of like Lincoln. There was something about him that remained unknowable. And like this Rodin sculpture, it was just sort of concealed more than it revealed.
You taught this Yale course on statesmanship, and then you thought about bringing it to EverScholar. And of course, one of the things that's different in EverScholar is that it's more team taught. You have colleagues that are teaching with you. What do you take from that course that you bring here, and what are you looking forward to about this course that might be different, or just in general?
Well, a couple of things. I'm glad you asked me that, Andy. Yes, I'm taking elements from the class I taught at Yale called Statecraft and Statesmanship, and bringing it to EverScholar. But one of the things that's exciting to me about doing it, first of all, is the opportunity to co-teach it with Dan Schillinger, who's a wonderful young instructor at Yale. He's a Thucydides scholar. So we'll learn a lot about Periclean statesmanship from Dan, but also he has broad interests in the history of political thought that we can explore, and I'm interested in learning from him, as well as also combining it with some of the guest scholars like my colleagues Steve Skowronek, Rick Brookhiser, and also Vicki Sullivan from Tufts, who has been a lifelong, or at least career-long, student of Machiavelli, Renaissance Florence, Republican government in the Renaissance, and looking forward. I've known Vicki for a long time and looking forward to working with her especially. So I think the course brings together some great talent with people with different, areas of specific expertise, ranging from, again, ancient Athens to Renaissance Florence to the American founding to the Lincoln and the more contemporary world, but really looking at kind of trying to get a picture of what the concept and problems of statesmanship are in full and sort of across the centuries in different places and times.
Mm-hmm.
Aristotle, in the beginning of the politics, excuse me, it's the beginning of the ethics, says that the study of politics is not right for young people. Why? Because he says they don't have the experience. They don't understand. You need a certain kind of experience to really engage with the study of politics. And to me, EverScholar does that. It brings together a range of people of many ages, mostly, frankly, a bit on the older side, but who come to this seminar, come to these seminars from some from the world of politics and diplomacy, some from law, some from business, some from medicine and science, an extraordinary range of life experiences. And I think that is enormously useful in a seminar, is to just the diversity of life experiences and perspectives that brings to a body of readings and a kind of topic that we discuss. That to me is one of the beauties of the program.
In particular, frankly, the classes that I've had with you, there's just a lot of fun that goes on. I mean, there's a collegiality that develops, very quickly. And I mean, some of it may have to do with the alcohol that's served at dinner or whatever, but I think it goes well beyond that. I mean, do you feel that way?
I'm glad you said that. Let me again contrast it a bit to a course at Yale. I teach on the directed studies program, and it's a first year program. And when the students come into the seminar, sort of for the first time, they're in college, they are so grim and nervous, what exactly am I supposed to do? And they're so serious. And it takes me quite a while to break that down. Mm-hmm. And to get them to laugh. I mean, a seminar without laughter, a seminar where you don't see the jokes. I mean, we're reading Plato at points. If you don't get the jokes, I mean, you're not getting it, And yes, right. I mean, the alcohol helps in EverScholar, but again, there's a humor. We take it serious. I like to think of it this way. We take it seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously. Mm-hmm. And I think that helps to keep the atmosphere of the course serious, but light too at the same time. Not a heavy-handed doer or ultra serious, but jokes, and that's a huge part of it.
I mean, I guess I should disclose that you and I are friends. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we've become friends, because we've met, mm-hmm. through EverScholar. And I mean, we celebrated New Year's Eve together with our wives and another couple as well, another EverScholar couple, who, by the way, also hosted like a reception at their home in one of our courses together, out on the porch looking out over New York City. And we're privileged to be able to do this. But I think that it's quite a good way to spend some time, as you get older. I mean,
but it is. It's a meeting of minds. It's a peer group, with a bit more of a peer group, and everybody really does. I've never been to one where people really didn't get along. Friendships and relations forged and formed, and yes. It's really, again, a beautiful thing when it happens.